Greetings and welcome to my channel, Take Control of Your Health. I'm Dr. Corey Stern. If this is your first time tuning in, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you. And I do recommend that you, when you have a moment, take a look back at the previous videos that I've uploaded, because sometimes I refer back to them and all of them contain critically important information for you in order to fully take control of your health. And if you are returning, please, I want you to know how much I appreciate your support and all of your wonderful feedback. I've been getting such great feedback from my viewers, and I really appreciate it, and the channel is growing slowly. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe, please take a moment right now to hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell icon and select all, so you'll get notified when I do upload a new video. And make sure you hit the like button if you're benefiting from this information, and also share it with those you know need to hear this information, because most of us in this country right now are not eating optimally. Let's just put it that way. So a lot of us need this information, and we need this help. So today's topic, I would like to talk to you about cereal. I'm specifically referring to boxed breakfast cereals that most people eat with milk. And I see so many of my patients coming in with cereal on their food journals, whether it's adults or children. So children are eating it for obvious reasons. It's a quick, easy meal. They like it. It's marketed to children. There are cartoon characters on it. It's sweet and colorful. So it's very easy to get kids to eat it. But folks, you are literally poisoning your children, as you will hear about shortly. And then adults are eating cereal also for a variety of reasons. One of which it seems to be a quick, easy meal when you don't feel like cooking. Some people think that it's a low-calorie meal, so if they're trying to lose weight, they feel like they're eating less when they have cereal. And then lastly, it brings back good childhood memories. And I mean, Lord knows I was raised on these cereals, mostly Frosted Flakes, but I had a lot of them. I had a lot of favorites when I was a kid. And there's actually right now, there's over 5,000 different varieties of boxed breakfast cereals on the market. So you certainly have a lot to choose from. And let me go into a little bit with you the history of cereal, how it became a food. Because, all right, before I do that, I just want to talk to you about breakfast as a concept. So in the United States, and I can't speak for other countries, although I did actually do some research on breakfasts in other countries, because I have people coming to see me from all over the world. Where I'm located in New York, I have people from pretty much from every country that live around here and end up coming in to see me as patients. So in the United States, most of us have grown up with this idea that there are certain foods you eat for breakfast. Okay, so cereal being one of them, whether it's cold cereal or hot cereal like oatmeal or farina or wheatina, any of those things, or eggs and bacon or sausage, or pancakes and waffles with maple syrup. Usually it's fake syrup. It's the disgusting high fructose corn syrup, artificially colored with caramel coloring, which is carcinogenic and just something like a complete and total poison, right? So this is what people think of when they think of breakfast. Now, the truth is that food is food. So the purpose of food is to give your body nutrition, and you can eat any food for any meal. You can have leftover dinner for breakfast. People, when I tell them that, they're like, ew, I can't eat that. Why not? Why can't you? In Asian countries like Korea, Japan, they eat fish soup for breakfast. Different parts of the world are eating just whatever food is popular and available, and it's not necessarily eggs and bacon and sausage and waffles and pancakes and cereal. So there's no rule about what is a breakfast food. Like orange juice is not a breakfast juice. In fact, we should do a whole video just on orange juice because it is not really good for you, believe it or not. So just getting back to cereal now, let me give you a little bit of a history of how cereal actually came into being. It's kind of an interesting story. I won't take a lot of time with it, but I think it's interesting. So let me just grab my notes here. So in 1863, this doctor named James Caleb Jackson was running a vegetarian wellness center, like a sanitarium in upstate New York. And he invented something that he made with concentrated grain cake that he was feeding people for breakfast. He was trying to give vegetarians an alternative. Back then, people were actually eating meat for breakfast, whatever kind of meat they would have eaten for dinner, they were eating for breakfast. So he created this very dense grain cake that actually had to be soaked overnight in order for it to be edible in the morning. And apparently it was kind of gross. But this one woman really loved it, and she was one of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and she actually included this as a breakfast in the Seventh-day Adventist Church doctrine. So Dr. Jackson, who created this grain cake, called it granula, and that's what he named it. So Seventh-day Adventists started eating granula, and then Dr. John Kellogg, this was in Battle Creek, Michigan. He was a surgeon, and he was one of the early Seventh-day Adventists also, and he loved this granula, and he decided he wanted to make his own version of it. So he made something very similar, and he also called it granula. And Dr. Jackson, the original inventor of granula, sued him. So Dr. Kellogg changed the name from granula to granola. So that's where we get granola from. And Dr. Kellogg had a brother who, he and his brother, the two Kellogg brothers, were like getting into this idea of these cold breakfast cereals, and they started experimenting with it. And what they were doing was they were boiling wheat and they were boiling wheat, rolling it and grinding it. And one day they did that. They accidentally left the boiled wheat in a pot overnight before grinding it. And then when they went to grind it, it broke up into these flakes. And that's how flakes were invented, just by accident. So they started making these flake cereals, wheat flakes and corn flakes, and that's Kellogg's corn flakes to this day. And then from there, this other guy, Charles W. Post, visited the sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan that Dr. Kellogg was a part of. And he liked these cold cereals so much, and he loved the granola so much, that he decided to get in on the game. And he took the granola and broke it up into smaller pieces, and he called that grape nuts. And that's how grape nut cereal was invented. And Charles W. Post went on to create a whole company making different cereals, the C.W. Post cereal company. And then Quaker Oats, which was making primarily oatmeal, hot oatmeal at the time, came into some technology in the early 20th century that could puff grains. So it was a grain puffer. So they started to make puff grain cereals. They invented Cheerios, which is puffed oats, and Sugar Smacks, which is puffed corn, and then Rice Krispies and Trix and all of the cereals that are puffed. Now, fast forward a little bit later, there came a device called an extruder, where you make grains into this kind of like a slurry. Make grains into a slurry, and you put them through this device called an extruder, and it turns the grains into shapes. Okay, so that's how all of these cereals are made today. Any cereal that's any shape is going through an extruder. Now the problem with that is the grains are forced out of a tiny hole at a very high temperature and pressure, and the process actually denatures, it changes, it alters the molecular structure of the protein in the grains, and they become toxic. So just about every single cereal on the market is made this way, which means that they're all toxic to begin with. They're just, if they're a shape, they're toxic. And that includes organic cereals. So if you think, oh, I'm okay because I'm eating organic, no, it's not okay. It's not actually any better for you. And there was this really excellent book written, which I'm pretty sure is out of print. Oh, you know what? I checked for it, and it is available. The whole text is available as a PDF online. You can read it. Maybe I'll put a link to it in the video. So this book called Fighting the Food Giants, and I read this years ago. That's how I first learned about this. This biochemist and food scientist named Paul Stitt. He worked for some of these large food companies, and he is the one that actually realized that the extrusion process was creating this toxin in the grains. And by the way, all the nutrients are killed in the extrusion process. And that's why all of these cereals have to be fortified, right? So they're all fortified with synthetic vitamins and minerals. And those things, synthetic vitamins and minerals, really do very little. I mean, they may prevent some deficiencies to some degree, but they don't create health in your body. If vitamins and minerals don't come from food, they don't belong in your body. So the extrusion process not only denatures the protein in the grains, it destroys the fatty acids in the grains, and they're just, they become this literally this poison. And there was some research done on these extruded grains and also on the puffed grains. There was some studies done on them that never got published because the food companies did not want this to get out, because it's a billion dollar industry. I don't know how many billions, but a lot of $1 billion industry, and they didn't want this information to get out. But they actually did like experiments where they were feeding these cereals to rats, and the rats were dying. So you would expect that with this much cereal sold every year and this many people eating it, that somebody would have said, hey, let's make sure these are actually okay to eat. But the answer is no, they're not. So what else besides the poison in the extruded grains, what else is in these cereals? Well, most of them are made out of GMOs, right? So the exception to that would be the organic cereals, but as I just said, the organic cereals are still toxic. The ones that are not organic are made out of GMOs, because most of the grains in this country are made out of GMOs. See my video on, let's see, bread, the good, the bad, and the ugly, where I talk about GMOs and why they're so bad. And then we also talked about in that video glyphosate, which is Roundup. So the cereals have the GMOs and the glyphosate in them. Those two things always come together. And then, of course, tons and tons of sugar in most of these cereals. Okay, so some of them don't have tons of sugar, but a lot of them do have tons of sugar, and they're mostly just sugar and GMO grains, and there's no nutrition in them. Any of the cereals that are colorful, you can think of, Trix and Lucky Charms and Count Chocula and all, I can't think of all of them right now that are colorful, but almost all of them contain food dyes, which are mostly carcinogenic, and I do have a video on that topic alone on food dyes. And we're feeding this to children, right? So we're feeding children these toxic grains with GMOs and glyphosate and tons of sugar and food dyes. They contain hydrogenated oil. See my video on fats. And hydrogenated oils are very, very bad for you. They're hormone disruptors. They cause heart disease and cancer. And then they're loaded with preservatives like BHA and BHT, which are also carcinogenic. So bottom line is, cereals literally can kill you. They are not a good food to eat. You certainly should not be feeding them to your children, right? And I've mentioned this on other videos. You don't just wake up one day and have cancer. You're eating foods that are causing it day after day after day. It may take years to develop. Okay, so these are all the things, everything on my channel are all of the things that contribute to diseases like cancer, like heart disease, like diabetes, all of those, we call them lifestyle diseases, and they're all contributed to by these toxic processed foods. Now, if you want to eat cereal for breakfast, you can have good quality hot cereal. You can have like good quality oatmeal. Yes, you have to cook it. Don't get instant oatmeal. It's just as bad as the cold cereals. Okay, so if you're cooking oatmeal by pouring hot water on it and then it's breakfast, it's highly processed. There's no nutrition in that, right? You have to cook food. You have to eat it as close to its natural state as possible. And it does take some planning, it does take some organization, it does take some getting used to, but it's the outcomes are going to be well worth it. So if you want to eat a hot cereal, try to make sure you're getting an unprocessed grain like steel cut oats. Try to get organic. These things are readily available in health food stores. You have Bob's Red Mill brand comes to mind. Bob's Red Mill they make all different combinations of grain cereals that you have to cook. And then make sure, because cereal grains are just carbohydrates, they're just straight carbohydrates, it's not a balanced meal. You need to make sure you put some fat in that, so maybe some good quality grass-fed butter. Raw butter is even better, but if you can't get raw butter, just some good quality grass-fed butter. I like Kerrygold, I love that butter. And then, or some good quality organic heavy cream. Again, raw is better. And then try to have some protein with it. Eat some protein on the side. Have a pastured egg or some kind of meat, or even if you don't want to eat that stuff, put some protein powder in, hemp powder or some type of good quality protein powder. Quinoa, by the way, you can make as a cereal, and quinoa has all the amino acids in it. It's a complete protein, and then you can just add some, maybe nuts or fruits to season it, some grass-fed butter, and don't forget your pink salt. And we will be doing a whole video on salt, but pink salt is something really important. Many people are salt deficient because they think salt is bad for them. But pink salt is loaded with nutrients and minerals that the body needs. So I hope that was helpful. I will be coming back again soon with more information for you. I'm going to be featuring a holistic vet on this channel next week, which I'm so excited about. So if you love your pets like I do, I'll have some great information for you. And if you don't have a pet and you don't want to hear from the holistic vet, don't worry. I'm going to be having Dr. Q coming back soon. We have a whole bunch of people lined up, and really excited to be able to provide you with this information. So I hope you are all doing well. Please let me know if you need anything. Don't hesitate to comment. I read them all and I try to answer them all. Take care, guys, and be well.